All right. It is time to get started with the show here. Hope the music wasn't echoing in a funny way there. I realized it might have been there. Um, but, anyways, hello. Welcome to Landmark Live Feature Rant, Episode 4. Um, Going to start with the image viewer as I normally do. So, moving on from the title slide, just some weird voxel wackiness that was going on and happened to look pretty cool. So I took a couple screenshots of it. Some more wackiness loading in. It just looks cool. Actually, it kind of reminds me of 3089 a little bit. This is my fancy material viewer thing. I've actually refined it a little bit more. I can actually basically demonstrate any material in less than 3,000 voxels now. So at some point I'm going to have 3,000 or 6,000 of things I need to use more than one of, and go through and do a live stream material test and have probably a bunch of other live streamers there too in case my files get corrupted. I've actually had some weirdness with that recently. Here's a PlanetSide 1 style wall. The proportions aren't quite right, and that corner in the upper left is a little wonky, but it's getting there. Like that's definitely a decent start. I used the hammer and thin for the purple wall area there, and actually it works really well even in the daylight. So that's probably what I'll stick with. Me and my buddy Nepau, Nepau, he's a fellow raging primate from PlanetSide 1 and 2. We're kind of working on some PlanetSide 1 throwback structures. He's working on a tower right now over on Serenity Hoodoo, and it's coming along pretty well. It's kind of like a PlanetSide 1 gun tower, except it's not going to have any guns on it for the moment. But it's pretty cool. Um, I should get some screenshots of it. So this is I dug under the earth. I dug all the way down. I finally tunneled all the way to the bottom. And what do you get? Just this wall of nothing that you're walking on and chunks of dirt that you can blast out from it. So I started throwing dynamite, and it was a lot of fun. I thought I was live streaming, but yeah, I unfortunately was just in preview mode. So next time I'm gonna burrow all the way down. I'll pop on the live stream, and I'll make sure it's actually recording. And I'm just gonna start chucking dynamite. I think I have enough for 100 or so now. It's really, really fun to throw dynamite at the bottom of the world right now. I highly recommend it. And I made a toilet. And I put, I think that was topaz. I put in the middle there, give it that real nasty, grimy, like this hasn't been cleaned of all of the ogre filth kind of look. And this bathroom is actually on my claim. You can find it in the it's behind two sets of doors, but of course you can just kind of walk through doors still. Um, so what I was saying earlier about the material browser having issues. Now I have enough obsidian to do this, but this was actually burrowed wood shingles that came up wrong. I've been having some things like that. I had an iron not work right recently, a few other things that just didn't look right. Apparently, closing the game and coming back in helps with it, but it seems like things still kind of get off here and there. I don't know what's going on with that. Whatever's going on with the material index or whatever that's causing this sort of issue. I actually validated the files to make sure there was no issue and there was nothing to update or fix. So I honestly have no idea why this sort of thing is happening, but hopefully I'll be able to get a little bit more information on it and be able to report to the dev team about it. So that's it for the slides for right now. I'm going to remove the slide viewer and hop on Twitch chat. Hello, everybody. Hello to you, Bad Viking, MT Stunner, Asphyx33. How's it going, everybody? So, I've got a lot of stuff to talk about this week. The first thing I'm going to talk about now, I had asked for people to send me questions and such via Twitter or Twitch or Steam, giving ideas for or giving questions or suggestions or whatever for the live feature rant. Now I did get one, and it took me a couple episodes to notice and really be able to formulate an answer. We don't really have combat right now, but it was a question about like off-claim buildings and combat and stuff. And actually, I really like the idea of being able to set up temporary non-claim structures. Like, if I'm going out in the wild, I don't want to have to burn a claim flag just to be able to set up a little base camp. Of course, if it's just a little simple thing, maybe that is what I would do. Is just, put down the claim flag, use it for as long as I need it, and pull it up whenever. That's not going to work as well, though, if it's a place that has a lot of claims occupying the area. Something where, maybe it's in the buffer zone that I can put down a little tent or a cabin or something, or a small fort. Um, I would definitely love to see that sort of stuff, and hopefully, when we get a little bit further along with combat, and especially PvP related stuff, we'll be able to see that sort of stuff coming in. And speaking of which, I was thinking about something for PvP, just limited claim PvP, no deaths. All damage is superficial, and you go back to your regular health after you leave the claim. But it's something where you enter the claim, there's a red flag on one side, a blue flag on the other side. You come in neutral, and the flag you touch determines what team you're on. Then you can fight people of the other team. There's maybe excuse me, one or two flags in the middle that you're trying to capture and take back, or a point that you're trying to hold and hold it for a certain period of time and defend it, sort of thing. So that would be fun to have for just a basic PvP when we actually get combat in and have the ability to control that sort of stuff on our claims. That might not be for a little bit still. Also talking about combat, I'd love to see a rock, paper, scissors kind of thing. They're talking about a very basic, simple combat right now. Okay, well, give me a the basic crushing, slashing, and piercing damage sort of thing. That if it's a brittle creature like a skeleton, um, just you hit it with a club, you're gonna have the best success. The sword, you might be able to stick it in the ribs and pop some out or something, but it's not going to be as effective, and it's not going to be as great if you're whacking at it. And a piercing weapon, obviously you're really firing arrows at a skeleton really shouldn't do anything. It should just bounce off unless you get headshots. Yeah, rock, paper, dynamite could win. I like that. Um, But yeah, that'd be another thing is the elementals. Like fire does well against plants and neutralizes ice. Ice does well against um, I don't know what reptiles, and it I guess reptiles, and neutralizes fire, um, that sort of thing. Just a very simple, like maybe only four elements. So if somebody isn't trying to use the slash pierce crush paradigm to defeat their enemies, then they'll use the magic or elemental type attacks in order to do what they need to do out in the battlefield, um, or wherever they're going to be fighting things. All right. I got a lot of stuff on here. All right. So, Terry Michaels, the producer, something that just is always funny to me. His forum avatar is a female. Now, he's a manly dude, and it's really funny that Terry being a kind of ambiguous name, he's using a female avatar because I wonder how many people don't recognize, who he is with the person on the forums just because of that, because they see the female avatar and they have the idea in their head, oh, well, that's, clearly that's not the guy I'm thinking it is. Um, just a silly observation. I don't know if I'd mentioned that on the show or not. Um, So, one of the things that they were talking about on the show was having some stuff to kind of unify the tools. So I was thinking, well, there's two sets of tools. One would be, or two sets of things that you would need to want to be able to manipulate with a different set of tools. So what I was thinking would be a something like this for prop management. So your position XYZ, your rotation XYZ, your scale XYZ, and the actual prop type. So maybe if you decide, no, I don't want this lamp, I want that lamp, you can just, switch it and it's just one of the features. So instead of having to manage a widget in order to get the prop right in place where you want it, you can use menu mode and just move it around that way. You could actually use a combination of an on object and on prop kind of widget thing that allows you to move it in the different ways, as well as being able to enter numerically in a little menu what you want to do with it. And I guess another one to add in conjunction to a previous idea I had would be to allow you to assign which prop group it's in, because I had talked before about wanting prop management, so being able to turn on and turn off all of the torches at once and having them all in the same prop group so they can all be turned on and off at the same time. That's definitely something I would love to see, and that would be another feature I'd have with it. So for the other tools, I would maybe be thinking, um, something maybe simpler like this. I didn't draw it out as much, but the position X, Y, and Z, the tool, the shape, and the function, and maybe the rotation as well. So that way, you can either try to mouse over and get the thing in place. You can have a block free floating with a widget that you can use to manipulate the position and all the other features, or you can numerically say, I want this type of block at this X, this Y, and this Z at this rotation. And then on top of that, even being able to change the material from that menu rather than having to go into the material browser. Yes, MT Stoner, a clapper for your torches. That's oh, the clapper. I remember those commercials. So cheesy, but an effective device. So those are the sorts of things I'd love to see for unifying the tool set, and I think that would be a really good way to kind of approach the situation. Obviously, the dev team said that they are currently working on their own set of solutions for it, and I'm sure that they'll come up with something at least as awesome and probably as effective. How they actually approach it, I don't know, and I don't know how much of what's going on with it is being held back by their current UI design. I believe last week, or maybe it was even the week before, they put out the announcement they're looking for a UI designer with ActionScript 3 and Scaleform experience. So if they've hired one such person by now, then they're probably already getting to work on UI stuff or learning the production pipeline, how everything all works first before doing that. But that might be one of the limiting factors for improving the tools right now is just getting the UI person in there, which could be, hopefully sooner than later. Like I had said on whichever show I had talked about it previously, if I knew Scaleform, I would totally apply. And I unfortunately don't know ActionScript 3 enough to overcome my lack of not knowing Scaleform to fake it. So, oh well. Uh, and then another thing, while building, so we saw the fly mode in the video, and that's cool, I guess. There's still some limitations to it. I'd really rather like a transform to wisp mode, so you're just this little pixel floating around, so you can get into tight spaces. That not only helps when you've got a some area that you're trying to fill in that's really hard to access, but also if you want to just be inside of an area and destroy and extrude from the inside, it's a lot easier, and it's a lot easier for the camera to know where to look at or where to look from if it only has to focus on one pixel. Likewise, the player knows where the camera is trying to focus instead of having this entire model and trying to assume where the null point that the camera is looking at is. It's it's just going to be this one little pixel. You know exactly where it's at. The camera knows where it needs to look, and that would make things a lot easier. Also, even to be able to get up under things a lot better. That would be, I guess, another way to enhance the fly mode that they were talking about and showing off a bit. All right. So, preserve hard voxel edges. Um, that's a feature I'd really like to see. Whenever I'm manipulating things and I delete something, it'll sometimes have the next block over develop a jaggy spike or some sort of weird malformation. And, that's really not what I'm looking for. Sometimes I've smoothed something a lot and I just want to take specific square chunks out of it without having the smoothing applied to the edges. So I don't know if there's any way they can do that with the current tool set, but I'd love to have them implement something where it actually preserves all of those hard edges across anything that I'm adding or deleting to make sure there's no weird issues when things get close and in proximity and try to smooth or blend to each other. Um, it's not just a materials sort of thing. It's also the uh, it's not just a blending of materials sort of thing. Rather, it's being able to make sure that you have things like a connection where things are right up close like this, where I've got a block here and a block here, and they just meet like this, and instead of having them glom together, that they'll stay separated. Hi there, Shadow Song. Um, yeah, Geek Domo's getting all the love tonight. It's totally fine. I'll get my show featured on there at some point, I'm pretty sure. For right now, Geek Domo's been really awesome with stuff. He's been helping things out a lot. He helped them figure out the code distribution system, so that's pretty cool too. So it's great. I almost hopped over on Geek Domo's channel for a moment to try to promote the show for a sec, but he can get all that love. He's actually got the partner status too, so he gets a lot more for having all the people than I do, I guess. Though I am actually thinking about the move to being a partner, starting up the live streams and trying to make the push for 500 people, and I actually have some stuff to help with that. You know what? I'm gonna grab one of those for a second. So at some point, when I'm trying to make the push for partner status, eventually, when I have enough people in the room that are following the channel, I'll be giving this away. I don't know what that's going to be. Maybe 500, maybe 1,000, maybe some other obscene number. But I've got one to give away. It's awesome, and I hope whoever wins it enjoys it. But that's not going to be for a little bit because, as you can see, I'm a couple digits away from 1,000. Oh yes, it's signed. It's signed front and back. It's pretty cool. I also have the giant EQNL poster. Oh no, excuse me, it's EQN from uh, SOE Live. Now I've got one of those in one of the magazines that's on its way to be framed right now. But I still have, that one copy of the magazine and one copy of the signed poster that will also be getting given away at some point. I'm not going to pull it out and show it off, though. I'd rather just stay as protected as possible so no harm can fall upon it. Because I'd be worried if I try to pull it out and unravel it for the live stream here, it might potentially get wrinkled or damaged. Oh, Shadow Song. Yeah, I actually managed to find it at I'm not going to say the name of the store because I'm not going to endorse them, but a store with red concentric circles as its logo nearby that actually had them. So there were more than three. I bought up three. I checked in with the Into the Portal crew to see if any of them wanted to get one because I figured I'd get them signed at the event. And one person did actually chime in, so they're getting one. So between the one I'm getting framed and the one that's already spoken for, there's only the one left. So it'll be available. Oh yeah, I'm sure Shadow Song. If you can go to SOE Live this year, there's probably going to be some amazing stuff available. I'm looking forward to it. So a perplexing thing that we talked about a little bit on Into the Portal. Lava voxels or magma voxels. Now it's a location thing, It's magma if it's not been released, and it's lava if it's on the surface. So it's going to be the same look of voxel one would expect. Um, I would immediately think magma voxel because if we're mostly going to be seeing it in the molten tier 3 depths or whatever, we won't be or whatever tier it's going to be. It's not going to be erupting anywhere. It's just going to be hanging out. So it's magma down there. Um, Ultimately, what I realized is we need a just molten rock or molten metal as the actual voxel type, and then the modifiers would be your lava or your magma or your slag or whatever else hot melted metal there's going to be. Maybe you've got a slag waterfall. I don't know if they're actually going to give us the ability to assign voxels to be dynamic or not. I think that's more of a terrain thing. So I'm not sure if we'll actually be able to have like a lava river that we can divert and make a waterfall out of. But um, it would be nice to see, molten as the descriptor, and then all of the different versions and variations of molten metal and molten rock come from that. So you still need buckets to collect it. So something else that I had thought about is temporary crafting station deployment to be able to put down a crafting station just for like 15 minutes or even less than that. Um, the point would be specifically when a bunch of friends are out in the world, you don't have to burn a claim flag. You don't have to fight against the claims and permissions in the area to try to put down a claim. You can just put down a sifter and have everybody use it, process however much stone and dirt and sand or whatever that they've collected, and once the time expires or once everybody's done with it, it gets picked back up. Or there could even be a lower resource temporary version that you make a bunch of them and it's just a one use deploy and it expires in an hour or 15 minutes or whenever a chomper decides to eat it or something. What else? I think I might have already talked about this. Um, a quick crafting picnic indeed. Yeah, gotta have that deli station to make your proper sandwiches, do your proper sandwich crafting. Um, so being able to leave messages on a player's claim. Now this is something that it'd have to be done in a very limited way because it'd be easy for a bunch of people to leave a bunch of random messages on someone's claim. It will probably be more like an inbox system. Like you get a message in an inbox that you then click on and it'll have a note from so and so, and it might even have the XYZ location. It might not. They might be saying, "Hey, this is awesome," or they might point out, "Hey, one of your arches somehow got messed up in that last update," or it could be something useful, or it could be left parentheses underscore right parentheses underscore right parentheses colon 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 right parentheses. And if you follow along and you know what I just drew out there, yeah, don't send those to people. Um, hmm. So is it? I covered that. I covered that. I covered that. I covered that. Covered that. All right. So biomes and biodiversity is definitely something that I want to kind of revisit a little bit because it was something I wrote a lot with landmark in mind. Um, yeah, Shadow Song. That would definitely make sense. More than anything, I just want a bucket sifter because I know how much dirt and stone and stuff that I can collect. So just something to be able to, even if it's like a much lower yield version, 10,000 to 1 for the field version, I would totally be fine with that. Just something so that everybody can, you know, put the put all the resources in, or just like I was saying last week with the community group, being able to have one person is like the sift master. They're just sitting there taking everybody's dirt and stone and sand and throwing it through the sifter. Um, it would be lovely to have that. Um, biomes and biodiversity. So the thing that one of the things that I had talked about with it is the transition between one biome and another. And right now, it's uh, not really something subtle. It's a really quick stop from you have exit the desert, you have entered the not desert woods grasslandy area. The grasslandy area is the full of trees. The desert is much less vegetated. A few euphorbs scattered about here and there. But there's nothing that really gives me that sense of transition between one zone and another. I don't know if it's just because of the scale they're working on right now too. That could be another thing. Because if they actually had the kind of transition I was talking about, it might require them to actually have a larger world than they have right now. Uh, but even for what the game is, expanding the width of the transition zones to be a lot more gradual, maybe even using a lot more like some sort of material that's sand and dirt kind of interspersed together. Um, whether it would be listed as a dirt or listed as a sand, be up to them. I would probably list it as a dirt. I'll probably list all of the transitory materials under dirt and have them collected as dirt. The Sift Lord or the Sift Master, indeed. MT Stunner. Oh man, that's a good one. So the transitions, it's also in the current state of the game. We only have really kind of two biomes plus mountainous region, and I found under the grasslands and woodsy kind of area, it's just dirt straight down. Um, under the desert area, once you get through the sand, it's just stone straight down. When I previously dug through the earth, I thought there were, different layers of different things. It turns out that was me just kind of boring at a slight angle through various biomes, and that's why it ended up that way. When I finally did the massive dig that the title image for this episode came from, that was all in the desert, all on the very edge. And I literally collected stone for an entire vertical mile. It capped off at 350K, I would assume less than halfway down. Yeah, that's another thing I've been thinking about. I think I talked a little bit about uh, the biome of human construction or construction by living organisms, and that's actually another big deal because a city itself, while it might be in snow or desert or grasslands, city itself is kind of like a major subbiome that can translate to a lot of different areas, and it has a lot of very specific features to it. So definitely when that could actually be one of the kind of transitory things from the city biome to some of the more fringe areas is having roads and pathways and stuff. More plains, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, they're working on getting all the biomes in, and I'm sure once they get all of them in, it'll have to be more diverse. There's no way they'll be able to do it any other way. It'll just to cram all of that stuff in the world space in a meaningful way. They're going to have to definitely have more gradual transitions and have larger kind of buffer zones between things. But I'm pretty sure that that'll come with the materials actually being available for them to be able to do it. Yeah, I can agree with you there, Shadow Song, to some extent. Alpha has kind of there is no more progression. Everybody, even people who are playing it casually are building up their highest tier of equipment and crafting tools or crafting stations rather. So it's gotten to the point where, yeah, everybody's more or less gotten a chance to do everything. But the inverse of that is that now everybody has gotten to the point where, yeah, I can just go collect whatever material, not because I need it for crafting, but because I want to build with it. Now everybody gets the chance to really just go buck wild with what we have available, being able to mess around and try everything out. And that's really the point of the alpha, is to be able to get all the building stuff in and get used to the tools, be able to communicate to the team about the tools in order to get them improved. And so far, that's been coming really, really well. There's been really amazing stuff people have built without a dome tool, without a cylinder tool. With just what's available, people have been able to do really, really, truly amazing things. Well, yeah, the progression for Alpha was completely artificial because it isn't really, it isn't progression. All we have is just the material progression right now. Actually having to truly arm up and be tough enough and understand what we're fighting in the other tiers and the other biomes and everything, and actually having to do things at night versus during the day because of the extra danger factor and the availability of certain things only at night. None of that stuff is in yet. It's the ability to go from material 1 to material 9 isn't very isn't very big compared to what the entire game is going to be in the grand scheme of things. The AI overlords, huh? You mean like bosses, or you mean the things that kind of control all the creature AI and give them all their own kind of sense of life and such, and give them their purpose in the world, as it were. Yeah, they've still got a lot of stuff to fix with the the painted surface world, like you were saying. There's definitely a lot of work to go still to get everything looking nice. Yeah, Storybricks should be a really big deal, and I'm interested to see how it's actually going to play out in Landmark, because I know it's going to be a huge deal in Next, because they have a plot and a story, they know what they want to do with it. But Landmark, I'm not really sure, how the story bricks are going to be influential, what it's going to mean, and everything. Um, I don't know really what level of integration we're even going to have with story bricks in Landmark. Um, I know they don't want to have just ambient creatures spawning in specific areas, but I don't know what they're going to do to have creatures more evolved, more intelligent, and trying to survive or adapt in areas that are more survivable because of places that they used to survive in are starting to get them killed. But we'll see how they decide to go with that. Hmm. Is there anything else? That covers most of what I wanted to talk about this week, believe it or not. Um, yeah, robust plant animal system indeed. Being able to, that they've talked about it and they've really teased that that's something they want. So they've talked about things that you're only going to be able to harvest certain things during certain times, uh, and that's going to definitely add a bit more danger to things when you can only get these glowing flowers at night. But when you're going and getting these glowing flowers, it gets sticky pollen on you or whatever that makes you glow, makes enemies have an easier time finding you. Or it could also produce a smell when it's collected that will attract certain animals, or even sentient plant creatures like the chomper. I'd like to see um, more than just plants and animals. I'd love to see more than just human bandits as well. I'd love to see all the sorts of different races and stuff in there. I don't know how they're actually planning to represent different races right now. Um, if we are going to have anything like I had suggested in the past, where we can, we have the template that's human, but we can change the color or, even repaint the skin, um, be able to change the proportions in odd ways. So you can have like a giant head and, tiny torso and long, skinny, gangly arms like some sort of alien. Um, being able to have different positions, normal walking around sort, or potentially a quadruped, or um, something that's bipedal, but more feral and animal like. Yeah, it should be a when it all wraps up, it should be a pretty awesome game. Definitely better than Second Life, and I think there was one called Entropia for a while. I don't know if it's still going. I'm really excited to have something this fun and worthwhile for a building and crafting kind of game to be available, because I'm really not that I want to take anybody's joy away from their Minecraft experience, but I'm tired of seeing Minecraft. Yeah. Hmm. So, what are other features anybody's been thinking about, or any questions of things that you're wondering about, or that you'd uh, like to know more about, perhaps? Whether it would be a little bit of both. Some weather systems, I think the weather systems might maybe originate and be directed by the biomes, but not necessarily be tied to those biomes. So if I've got a heavy windstorm that's coming over from the ocean, and it's pushing across a lava storm area, I'd love to see it take some of that lava storm over into the next region, and throw some fire and ash and stuff down there. Uh, so it would be nice to see being able to spread and get around. Likewise, it's not going to have nice pretty rain clouds and heavy rain in um, uh, those kind of lava stormy areas. So how you would end up kind of getting rain there is that a something might be forming from the next biome over, and once again, wind pushing it through, or like a hot and cold weather system causes the rainstorm to go through, and then all of that lava gets messed up, and you can find like chunks of surface obsidian around at that point. As for limits for the AI concerning weather, not really any. They can do a really complex weather system. Um, they could, especially if they've got a really large interconnected world, being able to have something where uh, you've got a very realistic, and once again, playing on the fact that the world is procedurally generated, that the weather can also be procedurally generated based on the world, or based on the randomization seed of the world. Um, so that each server can have its own unique weather, but it can be, each one is its own complex system. On this server, that if you're in this area and you build a claim in this particular section, you should expect to have you know giant mud balls flying on your property all the time. Um, However it would work, or mudslides could even be a thing. That's something I'm not sure if they would want to do, because on one hand, having natural deformation events like mudslides would be awesome. On the other hand, what would it do if somebody's got their claim there? Would it destroy the claim, or would it destroy the area around the claim, and they would have to use the heel brush to restore things or make things look like the area that's just been destroyed? I don't know how much permanent deformation they would actually be willing to do with weather, weathering the actual terrain and environment. And I don't know how much they'd actually be able to do with because the world's procedurally generated and it tries to heal back in a specific way, how much it can be altered. Oh, volcano insurance. Yeah. And the bank that handles that insurance is built conveniently right under the volcano. Uh, yeah, volcanoes would be pretty interesting to see. Yeah, don't build with wood. I'm really curious to see how things are actually going to work with the strength of voxels, and the appearance, because I might want it to look like a wood shack, but I want to have it as strong as, the strongest metal or ore or whatever that I have around, or the strongest material that I have available. I don't know if they're going to have that sort of blending. They've talked about being able to blend certain things, but I don't know if you can do it where it's got the strength of A material and the appearance of B material. Love to, though. Yeah, I've seen that too, Shadow Song. I've seen a lot of that in a lot of rooms where you're gonna die of carbon monoxide poisoning because they have the woodcutter and the forge and everything all underground in a non-ventilated room. Um, and that would be messed up if you actually had to deal with. If pollution was actually something you had to deal with in Landmark, that game would be, so much the win. That would be an element which would go above and beyond, what you would expect to see in a sandbox type game. It would just be great. Because then when you've got a grimy city, it's really grimy. It's got, a smog factor and everything going on. Global warming. Yeah, well, we could do that. Um, Raise the water level 1 voxel every year. That would be weird. That would be weird in 10 years when, really a nice oceanside property, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, water's right up on the dock now. That would be funny. All right. Well, we talked about dirt and voxels and combat, preserving hard voxel edges when manipulating things, leaving comments on players' claims, basic combat, rock, paper, scissors sorts of mechanics, molten voxels, limited claim PvP, capture the flag, or hold and score, um, temporary crafting station deployment, biomes, biodiversity, revisit, um, Terry's Forum avatar, which I still don't get, claim wisp mode, so you can just be a little dot floating around your claim, and unifying tools, unifying the tool system. That's quite a bit to cover. Thinking of a system that lets you queue either set your flags, ready to defend, or looking to attack. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know how they're going to do PvP. Don't. I don't know if they know how they're going to do PvP. Yeah, Shadow Song. That's the sort of thing. If they ever give us control to make our own UI plugins, I would love to be able to make mini games and stuff like that that then ties to in-game resources, so someone can wager 1,000 elemental tungsten for whatever it is that the other person's putting up, and have a game of whatever, and the winner takes all. Or it could be like a 50, 30, 20 sort of thing for like a newfangled poker game. Some sort of five suit poker game, which I think I actually wrote up the rules for one of those at some point. I have to just find it and I'd probably be able to implement it. MT Center, the other thing about PvP is, what kind of weaponry are we actually going to have? Are we going to be throwing dynamite at each other's walls? Or are we going to be, using the pulverizer as a weapon and just grinding through other players? Uh, that could be, it could be really interesting how they actually make it, and especially if you're set for PvP on a claim, can you actually deal damage to it? Because then somebody could potentially engage combat and then try to burrow underneath with that pulverizer and try to come up in the middle. And that sort of undermining would just be really awesome to have, especially if I'm attacking a fortified city. So it's been 1 hour here. Thank you all for coming. I'm probably going to wrap it up here and then just take a very quick break, and then I'm going to start doing a little bit of construction on my claim. So I'm going to put back up the image viewer here and get the theme song going, let it run for a couple of loops, and shut off the stream. Probably in about 10 minutes or so I should be back. So I will see you then.